who knows to say, oh, okay, got it. Okay. Um, what are we live right now?
I'm trying to get it to go that in that
Oh,
direction,
okay.
but
Okay, sorry.
it takes like 10 seconds. There's like a 10-second lag sometimes. And
Gotcha.
since I can't link it to that video, I have no idea where it's going to go, but whatever. We're going to still have it and I'm going to record it on my computer. Big Brother can't get us down.
No,
So,
no,
anyways,
it's
I
not.
will do a quick introduction and you can get into that. So, thank you
Okay.
so much. Kamusta fam, Kamusta. This is really for the Starseed Wisdom Yoga space, but I've been trying to go hard in the paint on my YouTube like you. Well, you don't know me, but I've followed you for years, like
Oh,
years with your
wow.
residence updates. I just don't, I mean, there's not a lot for me to say sometimes. It's just like, okay, there was this spike, I'm feeling it. And I just kind of take it in and gather information and then like act accordingly. You know what I mean? And
Right.
so you've provided a lot of insight and your YouTube channel is hilarious. And I'm
Oh,
so
thanks.
glad I found that. I didn't know about that. I thought you only did Schumann. So I'm really excited to speak with you today.
Oh, well, thank you. I'm so excited to be here. There's definitely a lot to be talking about right now,
For
especially
sure.
all the craziness.
You know, and I'm really
I
open,
do.
like we can take this conversation in many different directions. But there's a lot just with the Schumann resonance, you know?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I put together some notes and things yesterday, but then this morning I was like, yeah, I don't know if we're gonna actually be able to go down all that today because of the craziness that's going on. But thank you, just seriously, thank you so much for having me on here to have this conversation because there's a lot to talk about. And I think it's crazy, I've been doing the Schumann stuff for a while. It was about 2019 was when I started like putting it out there, and nobody nobody really gave a shit. And then all of a sudden this last week, everybody suddenly they're suddenly starting to ask questions, but it's different. It's not like questions as in curiosity questions. It's like defensive questions. I'm like, you guys didn't care about how none of this operated until now everybody wants to become an expert. And so my
Girl,
background.
that resonate. I gotta tell you, these people, I mean, it's been like always really good messages that I get from strangers on the internet most of the time.
Right,
When that
right.
happened on Saturday, I think it was Saturday when the Schumann spiked and started producing different patterns. I got Agent Smith. Everybody was like, whoa, it's the essential. Like, aren't you so excited? I'm like, yeah, to most people, like 80% of those messages, I'm like, yeah. But there was like 10 messages from Agent Smiths that were like, it's broken. I can't have you falling for this deception. Like, it's a total hoax. I mean, they even left like comments under other pictures that didn't have the Schumann resonance talking about this. And I'm like, maybe this is like some sort of Draco reptilian tool that they're using, because where did these people never said anything any other day when I'm posting about it, you know?
Right, right. I know. And it's weird. It's like then people start asking questions about it, like I said, but it's like the questions that they're asking, they're like I said, they're defensive. And so my background is in healthcare, and when we
Okay.
were teaching nurses, so I'm an RN and have been for many years. I have 20 years in healthcare, but I left during like once COVID hit, I already had one foot out the door. I was like, have I been in here for 17 years at this point? Y'all young bucks can take care of this. So I stopped. I left to pursue my alternative health practice. So, but I taught a healthcare program, and we always had the saying in nursing is, okay, you guys know just enough now to be dangerous. And
Mm-hmm.
that's what it kept reminding me. All these people know just enough to make them think that they know what they're talking about, but they actually don't have a wide enough knowledge base on how the equipment works or things like that for them to be making some of these claims, which would be very easily dismissed,
Mm-hmm.
if they would just ask instead of like presenting it as in da 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 and all that stuff. But so what I do want to just get out of the way is what is the Schumann? And then we can talk about all the craziness. So just to lay a foundation. So the Schumann
Absolutely.
basically measures the the heartbeat of Earth, and it was created or discovered that we had this heartbeat that could be measured in 1952 by, I think, what's his name? Winifred Otto Schumann. And it wasn't reliably recording the Earth's frequency until the 60s. So it was recording since 52, but the 60s is when it had been reliable. And so this has been going on for, what is that, 50 years now, over 50 years, 70 years, right? And so the way the Schumann measures is that it takes the electromagnetism from the ionosphere and it graphs it from those conditions to a spectrogram. And a spectrogram takes frequency basically and breaks it into visual light. And so what we see is what we're seeing being graphed is the light being the frequency being being turned to light, transferred into a light graph, and we're seeing those different light rays or frequencies as a visual image of light. So what it graphs is blue is homeostasis, so that's just the normal background. So when you see blue, that's just what it stays at. And any of the other colors is something it's actually graphing. So green, red, yellow, and white. Those are the four colors that it graphs. So before I get into that, I want to break down, there are two different Schumann resonances. The OG one is located in Tomsk, Russia. And that's the equipment that they use to record the way I just explained it. And it uses two coils that basically it's two coils. It's more complex than this, but it basically uses two coils that communicate with one another for the different oscillations being measured in the ionosphere. So what Cumiana does, Cumiana is in Italy, and it does not tap into the ionosphere. But what it does do is it uses seismic, it records seismic activity, not the same as like for an earthquake, but it takes the actual frequency of the earth and then transfigures that. That's the word I was looking for. Transfigures that into the spectrogram or spectrograph that you see on the other side. So if you have the Schumann app, which the Schumann app is just an app that somebody created from taking the Tomsk equipment and the Cumiana equipment and putting all of the stuff there in one little app. Okay, they're just the middlemen. They're not the people actually running the equipment. They're just creating it, right?
Okay, one of the agent Smiths said that was NASA, that NASA actually is hosting the app. Is that, to your knowledge, total BS?
It doesn't, it's not as far as I know, it's not NASA. I've looked on there several times and nowhere does it say NASA. Now, NASA does, like, okay, we have to just understand that it's not just, this is the science community, and yes, we are awakened star beings and light beings, but we still have to play by certain rules here, and the science people are the ones that have control over this. So the reason why the Tomsk Schumann and Cumiana Schumann look different, because they use different equipment and they measure using different routes and different methods. So the graphs and the charts are going to look differently. They're going to look different. Do they line up? No, they rarely do. And that's the other thing. Like, how come this one looks like this and this one looks like this? Because they're different equipment and they're measuring different things. And you'll see red on the Cumiana, which oftentimes coincides with what we see as white on the Schumann. So
I see. Okay.
Right. So the Schumann in Tomsk, Russia is through, like, I had somebody message me like, it's a bunch of college kids that run that. I'm like, okay, let's take a deep breath. There is truth there, but let's break this down. We have college kids that run all kinds of big ass equipment in the US too. Those are called grad students in their grad program with grants from the government to study this shit. So it's not just like, hey, I'm a liberal arts major and they're letting me run this equipment. You know what I mean? So yeah, they're, say what you want about Russians. they take their science seriously. Scientists take
For
their science
sure.
seriously.
Mhm.
So that it is controlled. Now, there's that. I want to make sure I hit all the things that I want to talk about. Okay, so as far as how I read it before we talk about the craziness, how do I read this? First of all, I use the Schumann as a tool to just reaffirm what I've already picked up on intuitively through my own divinity, through my own methods that I use, basically all my clairs, my cognizance, sentience, clairvoyance, clairaudience, all of my clairs. I've already begun feeling this, just like everybody else is feeling and tapping in, like, I wonder what this is. And for me, what I started to do and how I came to be doing all of this is that I started noticing on days that I would just get these crazy emotional, mental emotional outbursts or triggers or things like that, or I would feel really, really high some days, or I noticed tingling or buzzing and stuff like that. And then at some point in 2019, like earlier in the year, I had run across somebody who had posted that. I was like, "What is that?" And there was no Schumann app. You couldn't hardly find the live feed to begin with. You could find very little on it. And so at some point, I found it and I was able to keep track of it. And then I started to notice that these little energetic waves would come through when I would have this. So I started keeping track because I'm my medical background is compiling data as a nurse. Is I started, compiling my data, symptoms coinciding with this, da 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 da. So that's how
So,
I started to figure it
but
out.
back up though, like, is that how people made a metaphysical connection to that data? Like to know that the white were blessed. I mean, who knows if it's maybe loose energy or something? How do we know
Well,
that that's what
okay,
it
so
means?
here's the thing. So here's the thing. I like to compare the Schumann to a broad spectrum antibiotic. When you take an antibiotic, that antibiotic doesn't know, oh, I only need to target the bad bacteria and keep the good bacteria. It kills all of it. So that's why women will get a yeast infection, because it kills the good bacteria and allows the overgrowth of the yeast to take over, right? So the same thing with both of these graphs. It can't discern where the energy is coming from. All it's measuring is the energy.
Mhm.
So while solar flares may or may not affect what's showing up on the Schumann, a lot of times it won't even show. Sometimes they coincide at the same time, that we'll get a spike at the exact moment that we had a flare. Now, here's the other thing: as within, so without. While the Schumann is a tool that I just use to be like, oh yeah, okay, this definitely was because of the energetic spike. I was feeling these things, and I feel it within a day or two, maybe a few hours before it actually shows up on the graph. So when it shows up on the graph, that's my confirmation. Yeah, that was energetic. And it's not just my own personal shit, it's a fractal thing that we're all doing. So I was looping back around to why I said that. Oh,
Yeah.
because as within, so without, yes. So
Mhm.
I'll see those things, and that was my visual cue, and I'll break down what those different colors mean. And that's what I've figured out. It's open to interpretation. I'll tell you, there's nobody out here that really knows how this all translates to the metaphysical. There's not a class on it. Like, these are just people like me who have been putting two and two together and putting it out there.
Mhm.
So anyway, the we can, through ourselves, which I've said oftentimes, you go back and look at my posts, oftentimes you'll see that I'll say we have created these shifts, because a lot of times these solar flares won't pop off. We won't have solar flares for days, maybe in weeks, maybe even weeks. And then I will address the fact that we haven't had much activity. And the second I post, we'll get like a slew of them. So
Mhm.
we know that the sun is our solar plexus, right? Venus is our heart. Gaia is us. So we actually we can create these things on certain portal dates, right? Where people are like, oh, it's Lionsgate, I'm feeling pumped. Oh, this day, this particular metaphysical astrological event is going, I'm feeling pumped. But you'll actually see on the Schumann reflect more whiteout energy.
Mhm.
And that's because I've said before, we've created that. It's measuring us. We're shifting this. We're doing it. The Schumann and all those, and the solar flares and all that, it's this symbiotic thing. It's the catch 22. What came first? Did we create that and we're just pinging it back and forth? Because that's the way I see it, is that we're just pinging this information back and forth. um and so as far as the colors, I discovered, white typically is either plasma or gamma rays. They are given off by a big solar flare or something like that, or us. um Red is a trigger. Anytime there's some red on there, you gonna get triggered. That's the way I've always seen it.
Mhm.
And when you see green, it typically is associated with physical body or matter. So like you might have a equipment break or malfunctions with things like that, or your body having more physical symptoms. And then you'll see yellow, and yellow only shows up with red. There's not yellow in green. There's not yellow in white. Yellow is only with red. And the way I read yellow, it's kind of like that ether energy that connects that triggering energy to either the physical clearing or the coding that's coming in with the white. So I
Mm.
see that as kind of like that buffer zone, kind of like an HDMI cable to connect those two. That's the way I see it. I don't know anybody else who, I don't know what they think about it, but that's how I read it. So I'll just look at the graph and I'll be like, okay, these type of things are coming in. But most of the time, I'm just going to say my posts are all intuitive from me as an oracle. And then I put the graphs and charts up there just because it reaffirms what I've already tuned into. People often
Exactly.
have asked me, they'll often look at me and ask and say, how did you figure all that out from that graph? Can you teach me? I'm like, I can't, because I'm being an oracle and it's called This Is My Gift. So I can teach
Well, that's the
you
thing.
those
You
little
did a
things.
post like June 7th, and you're like, hey, it just feels like there's energy brewing up. I can feel something building. And I'm just letting you guys know that's essentially the gist of the post. And that was
Right.
only like a week before this shit popped off. So I'm going to actually share my screen and pull up a picture
Okay.
of what it looked like, because, and I should have had this ready.
No,
Frankly,
you're fine. It's
I'm trying to get it to link to the other thing. I don't get all this technical shit. The big brother has already had all my technical stuff because I don't know how to, I'm not as advanced as they are. Do you know what I'm saying? Like
no,
as far as
no,
that goes.
no, no, no. Seriously, I have to try and play around with stuff first before I do that, because I'm like, I've had too many of those where I've been like screwed up, or
Totally.
having
Well, I
people.
thought I knew. I thought I could do it. And then I'm on here and I'm like, I don't know how to link this to the other YouTube thing. Okay,
Okay,
so I
look,
don't
now
know
I'm
if
seeing it.
you see the graph. This is the graph when it seemed to be this very harmonious thing. And I know that you've indicated
Right,
that the black lines are a timeline shift. Do you
right.
think that has anything to do with the Hadron Collider?
Um, I don't know actually, but this is what I will say. So the first time, like nobody had seen these blackouts on the Schumann until probably 4 years ago or so. And I used to follow somebody who would occasionally post this, and her page has been dead and gone for probably 3 years before COVID, just disappeared. So I can't even remember who it is. And it was on an old account. But anyway, that's
Huh.
where I first started to see it. And she didn't post regularly. But the very first time that there was a black that showed up there, everybody was like, we don't know what this is. We don't know what this is. And this is when I learned that I have a gift for reading this shit and intuiting what is happening here. And so I was tuning in and I messaged her and I said, it's a timeline shift. You said, boom, that is it. That's exactly what it is. So why do we say that? And why do I say it's a timeline shift? Because the Schumann only records to 45 hertz. And anything, if we get higher than that in frequency, it can't graph it. That's why there's black there, because
Mm.
it can't record what's there. So if that's the case, we all know that, or maybe we don't know, but many people know that the fifth dimension begins at 40 hertz. So 40 to 100 hertz is 5D. So we're getting all this 5D and higher coding during this time. So that's why I say it's timeline shift, because we're leveling up and being funneled and pushed. So that's why I call those a timeline shift. Now, I had been feeling something this whole day where it had been normal. I don't know, you can't see me pointing to these things, I don't know. But anyway, the whole day where it was looking like the normal the normal graph on there, there had been, I've been checking the Schumann all day long because I'm like, there's something going on. Like I just am feeling something. I know something's going on. I kept looking, nothing was going on. And actually at the time, I looked at it in the afternoon when I started feeling all this weird stuff. I didn't realize it had stopped recording earlier, that it hadn't been recording all day long because I've been really, really, really busy that day. I'd been like, go, 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 go. Hadn't even barely been looking at my phone. So I wasn't really focused and paying attention. I was just looking to see if there was stuff. And I was like, oh, it's just green, whatever, like not that big of a deal. So then we had a massive storm hit, which I'm at my friend's house right now. Thank God she got electricity. I still don't. Last Saturday. Oh God, it's massive. It was massive. There's so many trees. The problem is there's a shitload of trees that got downed and destroyed everything and the lines. So that's been a problem. That's what's taking it so long, is they got to clear the trees before they can get to the lines. So we had this massive storm blow through, all this crazy chaos, power went out. And then after the storm was over, I looked at the Schumann and I'm like, there's got to be something that's happening. And then that's when I realized, oh shit, the Schumann's is 1:30 in the morning and had been down since 4:30 a.m. that day. And so I fell asleep. I woke up and I had several people sending me this, and I hadn't even had a chance to look at it. My phone was just blown up and I saw that. Now I will tell you, this was my initial thought. Oh, there's something wrong with the equipment because it doesn't record that way. That was my initial, there's something wrong with the equipment. But I'm just going to say, I'm going to tie it all in there. There's a purpose to everything. So I thought, okay, that's weird. But I thought it was weird that there was a blackout before that. So as it went on, I will say there definitely was an energetic shift. I had been feeling so freaking blissed out for the days leading up to that. Even then, like I was feeling so blissed, super heart expansive, all of those things. Now, whether we want to say that people that, and so before I get to this and more, let's move on to this morning where you have Vladimir Putin's face on there, plus a meme and the letter that the Schumann folks had sent to the Schumann bot on Twitter because they're copyrighted images. So they created a bot that automatically, this was years ago, I think it was in 2019. Well, I don't know what 2019 was the year for the Schumann for people to figure it out, but it was. But they started this Twitter page called Schumann bot, and it just basically takes this and automatically posts it to Twitter. Well, that was one of the things. So they're violating copyright by sharing the image, right? Whatever. So that was on there and all this, and I was like, what in the Bugs Bunny is going on here? So that did confirm. So here's my thoughts on all of this. I do believe that, God speaks through us. We're all conduits of God, source, creator, what you want to call it. Whether you're nefarious or malevolent, you still have God within you, whether you deny God or not. You have that. So I feel that no matter if this beautiful imagery and what's the word I'm looking for? Geometries were created by whoever's hacked the page today, or not, that's still really pretty and really beautiful. And it doesn't matter. The why doesn't matter. It's what you do with it. It's how you make you feel, how it makes you feel with anything in life. Like, we understand this, right? Like, we've had deceptions before in life, and we could be like, oh, they're so evil, they decepted us, we've been deceived, oh, they're terrible, all that. But we still have to look at, what did that teach us? So the same thing with this is like, when you look at it's how you feel. So when you looked at that graph and you felt it was magic, it was magic. And it doesn't ever matter. Like, things can be an illusion. And I will tell you, I've had many tests and lessons brought to you by spirit that were that had nothing to do with all of the things, and it was all an illusion. None of it was ever actually real. It was just something created to get me to have the experience to go through what I had to go through to learn what I had to learn. And so that's how I feel about the Schumann. if you are putting all of your eggs in this Schumann basket to say, hey, this is the ascension because this graph said that it is, you've got bigger problems. It's like, because it should be about tuning into yourself and not using this external stuff to say hard truth and facts, right? It's your internal setting. So even if it
Yeah, I
is a
agree.
hoax, the amount of people that felt magic and felt elevated and felt like it was God directly speaking to us, what did that, if it was a deception, what did that do? It raised so many people's frequency and opened their heart and helped them create that to actually bring
Mhm.
that timeline here. So it doesn't actually matter if it's real or if it's not. It's what we choose to do with it. And for, it's just this really extreme dual. And the way I look at this is, it's this really extreme dualistic expression of the people saying it's a psyop and blah 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 blah. Well, those people are in deep victimhood. That's all I had to say. Like nobody, like what makes this any different to the other thousands of psyops that we have going on, which is our world governments? What's that really matter if this is just another one? That's why, I mean, I have had suspicions that the Schumann wasn't recording accurately because for months there was like no activity on it, like none. And we had massive stuff and it wasn't
Mhm.
doing anything. So I feel like it's at times, I don't trust it 100% either. But here I'll tell you, most people want to pay attention to my post when I put an image of the Schumann up versus me just giving my oracle report. They
Mhm.
like to have the science there that says yes, this is real. Now you have some validity. So that's kind of what I think. And then I feel like with this business today, is it's just the controlled opposition. I
Mm.
I honestly feel like the beautiful geometries that we saw, I really feel like it was God speaking through whoever saying, hey, look, I'm here. There is magic, believe. But with this, I feel like, they recalibrated everything, they wiped all that old data out, and they started recording the way it's supposed to, and it started coinciding with solar flares that we were having. At the same time we would get a solar flare, I would get a notification that there was a spike on the Schumann. But
Mm.
with this, I feel like totally controlled opposition. They want to completely discredit what any sort of magic anybody was feeling with the previous two days earlier this week with the magical looking charting on there. So that's basically my whole thoughts on this whole thing is that it's, go with yourself. Don't seek outside. Don't take it too seriously. Everybody's taking it way too seriously. Like everybody was posting about all this. I wasn't. Like if I'm not taking it this seriously and like this is something that I've dedicated to and I'm passionate about and I'm intrigued by, and I wasn't like as ate up with it as everybody else, like getting on here, that's my first red flag. When there's a bunch of hoopla about something, I take a huge step back and I watch the chaos unfurl
Mhm.
and I become an observer of that. And I just encourage other people to do the same. And so when you see all this crazy stuff, just like, just anytime there's something that happens and it's all in your face, all of a sudden it's all this dualistic, it's divine, it's demonic, then step back to the center and say, what is this doing? I got to find the humor in this. It was hilarious. This totally reminded me of something Bugs Bunny would do. I'm not kidding.
And
Like,
you make like so many great points. Like that is, I think, because maybe you've been on the trajectory for quite some time and kind of had awakenings earlier. At least whenever I started following you, which was around 2019 into the quarantine timeframe, like when I was online more and found out
mhm.
about this. And I think like we've been through the cycle. So if anything, the Schumann resonance has given us all of that data to be able to know the pattern, to know, because everything, these apex predator, Lizzie people, I don't even know what to call them. It's like, I can't even blame them anymore. I can't even blame them. They're simply hungry lions and we are wounded hyenas. And they're not even our species. Like if you really analyze what they are, these people that did this thing that we're looking at, it's like you look back on their history, they've never been like us. And that's why they use us for this vitality. And I believe, I agree with you, like that they use this energy as loosh to feed off of because they
Oh, 100%.
human-sized Nephilim that aren't on the same frequency or level of consciousness as humans. And they worship
They're
hermetical.
parasites. That's the thing that
Exactly.
people don't realize. They're a parasite. They can't exist without us. They are no more than a tick or a flea on it. On it. I don't even want to sound a dog because I got my dogs right here and they're way cooler. But all they are is they need a host. We're the host.
Yes, we are
So
the
quit
host.
giving
They have
your
no creative
right.
essence. They have no variation. And this is so corny what they put. This is like, I mean, I really am like, I was laughing as well, but at the same time, I'm like, holy shit, maybe that Agent Smith was right. Like, I didn't get too overly excited because honestly, I've been feeling this for the past 3 months. Like that
Right.
and that's what it feels like in my brain. And I think like, there's people that say that it's the double sun. Somebody told me it was the double sun. And it's
There, yeah, I mean, there
awesome.
have been a lot of, I've been seeing a lot of stuff about the two suns, and actually, that is something synchronistic that came up. This is something that's came back around. I can't remember when this was. Was it in January? Was it in last fall? I can't remember, but the prophecy of the two suns, I even made a post about that. I'll have to dig through, but I did make a post about the prophecy of the two suns, because we have what we have, the sun that we see, and then we have the black sun, which of course everything that you take, everything you get, there's going to be the dark version of it, and then there's going to be, there's everything's truth mixed with lies. You pull out the pieces that resonate. And so the black sun actually is, and if you'll see, most star systems have more than one sun. They have two different suns. Where's our second sun? Why are we the only planet that doesn't have a second sun, right? So I don't know only, but most planets have two suns that they work with. Like Sirius has different suns as well. So anyway, so that's our sun. It's the unconscious mind. So the sun that we see is our conscious mind. That's the conscious light within us. And then the black sun, I view that as the unconscious aspect of our divinity.
Mhm.
Oh, sorry, I just got a Amber Alert. Um,
What
so
really?
yes, yeah,
I don't know
somebody's trying
about
to
those two.
spill.
I think our children's loot, like I really believe like all of that goes with what we're talking about. They have a whole
Mm-hmm.
system where they can reach all of us at the same time. This one time in Florida, it went off at 4:44 a.m. And they said it was the person didn't schedule it properly. But everybody in Florida woke up at 4 a.m. that day. Don't you find that a little odd?
Yeah, that's really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they definitely have all these tools and things out here, but here's the thing, guys. It only has power if you give it to them. So whether you're all amped up, like being adamant, telling people they need to wake up, that they're being manipulated and all that stuff. Here's the thing. People need to be manipulated to learn to not be manipulated. So anybody that's falling for whatever, that's the experience that they have to have in order to have better boundaries and better discernment. It's a lesson in discernment.
That's
And
some
to
deep
not put all
truth
your,
there, sis. That's some deep truth.
that is some deep truth. And so, they're like, well, I just don't want people to, well, that's when I wanted to save everybody too. But when I was trying to save everybody, that's when I was doing the worst. So
Mm.
I just let people, even if I know better and I like absolutely know, I still don't say shit to people, because I can tell. I will if I can read you and I can tell you're going to be open, but I can tell you ain't going to be open. I'm just going to let you go through all that, and then you'll come back and then you'll say you were right. And I'm like, I know, I didn't need to tell you that, and I didn't need. No, that's the experience you had to have. We've all had those experiences. I need to have these experiences so that I could not get my ass handed to me. So yeah, I
What
definitely
is
do
your
feel.
what's your zodiac sign?
So in true sidereal and Vedic, I am Aquarius sun and rising, but in tropical, I'm Pisces sun and rising.
Mm.
So either way, I'm the weirdo of the zodiac.
Yeah, you're still in that same realm of higher consciousness, humanity, the dreamy, very spiritual and intuitive. That's interesting.
Right. Right. And so it's been a thing for me my whole life. And my mom, she, thanks, I wasn't no Easter. My mom had her cousins over and we were talking and everything. And I normally, I would try to like dim my light, but I didn't this time. I was like, whatever, I'm like, yeah, I'm a tarot reader and I'm doing Reiki and I'm doing all this stuff because they're used to me being the responsible nurse,
Mhm.
And I thought, and I just embraced it and I didn't have any like hesitation or anything. And they totally embraced it. And so it actually opened up for them because they had these experiences as well. And so they were very intrigued and started asking. They asked my mom, they're like, how did you deal with this child growing up? And she was like, I didn't know that she was special. I just thought she had a really good imagination, but now my parents, know and they believe what I say now. But yeah, it was very I've always been this weird person. I just shut it all off when I was
Mm.
in right before I went into high school because I went to my great uncle had passed, went to my first funeral, and that night I saw him walking down my hallway, freaked me out. And so I spent like pretty much my whole life shutting it off until I moved into the house that I live in now. And Spirit was like, yeah, you're not going to ignore this anymore. And then I had to my house basically trained me to start working with
You're
entities
a
and
medium. Okay. Can you see them?
yes,
Mm.
yes, yes. And I've seen shapeshifters and I've got my space cleaned now. But I'll just say where I live now, Spirit, God, universe delivered that home to me because I wasn't even looking to buy a house. I was just kind of looking to see, like, oh, the next year I want to purchase. And I was just kind of seeing in the area what I could afford.
Hmm.
And the last house I looked at, which was the third house, I was like, oh, this is my house. I'm moving here. And I went to lunch, got pre approved. And within 3 weeks, I was living there. They even moved up my closing date a whole week because everything was so smooth. And I got the lowest interest of the recession. Like, seriously, I'm supposed to live where I live. There's a river that runs right across from me. There's an interstate to the south of me. To the west of me, there's a highway and there's a railway, and then there's another busy road right next to my house. So I'm on this massive, like all of the energy, all those things conduct energy. So I'm
Mhm.
harnessing all this crazy energy and anchoring it there. But that's when I first moved into that house, I started getting things that would move that shouldn't have been put in places where they were. There's no way that they could have been there. My dog started like reacting to different things, shape shifting into forms of my cat and my dog.
Oh,
Shadow figures, doors slamming shut that were already shut. Um, what else? Oh yeah, my ex actually saw an old man open up my garage door and then close it, but he wasn't real. So
hmm.
there was just a lot. And that's when I had to learn how to deal with these things. And I actually teach a class on how to deal with these things to get rid of them. And so they'll come into my space now because, I practice Reiki. And when you clean these things off of people, they get pissed off that they just lost the food supply. So
Hmm.
I have to, be very careful about my energy and I have different things around to keep them out. But they don't scare me anymore. They don't scare me. They don't shake me. Like I've had demons in my house. I've actually had to literally fight demons. And
Really?
it's just, yeah, it just comes with the territory. And I've had people say, well, I just think demons are just a reflection of yourself. I'm like, should I send one to you? Should I send one to you so you get to experience that? Like, because I'm not claiming that I'm a demon. I'm not. And I've manifested a demon because I'm a demon. No, if there's angels that are real, there's demons that are real. If you believe in angels, and you should believe in demons. And they're just a parasite as well.
Hmm.
And they hate us so much because we have more power than them. That's why they hate us, because we're more
Hmm.
powerful than they are. So when you realize and you take your power back and their frequency that they emit, how you're around some people that just feel like sunshine. I think you're around them like, oh, I just love being around you. So awesome. Well, those things feel like fear and extreme terror.
Mm.
So when you get that feeling, that's how they trick you into consent. You're consenting to their present because you're giving into the fear and you believe you're afraid of them.
Wow,
You're
that's
not.
fucking deep.
Yeah. So you're not actually feeling afraid. That's how they trick you into consent. And they also trick you in consent by consenting to their presence by your sleep state. Most people think, oh, it's just a nightmare. No, you're in an altered state of reality, and fucking with you in the astral, and you're saying, oh, I'm accepting your presence because it's a dream, and it's not. So yeah, you basically just have to realize that you're not actually afraid of them. That's just the energy you're feeling is their energy. And stand in your power. Don't come from anger, because boy, they love that too. You stand in your power and you say, get out of my house now. And then I always send them with love too, because I used to send them back to source for rehabilitation, which I still do, but now I've added the layer of, I love you, bye. They hate that. They don't
They
often come back when you
do.
start doing love.
Well, I feel like that's a microcosm of what's happening on the macrocosm. Like all these things you're talking about in the inner parts of the psyche. It could just be, that is one theory, that it's a reflection of you, but then to have it personified as an energy, just like the Schumann resonance, that is how we can collectively gain a deeper understanding. So it's even like these people that you're saying don't believe you. It's like, there's nothing to believe or not believe. You either use this information or you don't use it. Just like astrology, just like
Right.
the human, all this
They're
wisdom
just
that you're
tools.
dropping.
Right.
Exactly.
They're just tools. And we all have different roles to play. My role that I signed up was to be an oracle for humanity and to help people heal. And to teach people how to deal with these. I deal with the dark. Some people are just into the light stuff. And I chose the role that I deal with the dark stuff. And one of my other friends, he deals with the dark stuff too. Now, he specializes in the demonic entity removal stuff. I don't specialize it. Like when it gets to something like, I'm like, go, I'm going to pass this over to my friend John. You guys do that. But we all have these different roles, and it's not like any role is more important than the other. Some people
Mhm.
have that role where they're the consumer. Like I'm a creator and I put content and services out. And some people exist, and I know this might sound crazy, but some people's whole existence is to be that person to support people that create.
Mm.
Like I know some people that they just feel this passion of, they just want to spend all their money supporting different spiritual based small businesses. And
Okay, I
that
need to
is
know those people.
right. So, right. Yeah. Seriously. It's like but they didn't realize that that was their conscious thing. It's like, I just feel compelled that I need to work
Mhm.
with these type of people and support these type of people. Well, that's their purpose. And like, don't think of that as not being something important, because without those people, I can't pay my bills. Like I completely unplugged from the matrix, once COVID hit, because there's no way I was going to do it. And so
When
I
you
like,
say unplug from the matrix, is that going into a hermit mode?
in a way, I've been very hermited for many years, and I'm just now starting to come back out of that. But as far as unplugged from the matrix, as far as playing into the roles of the the third dimensional jobs that we have, like my job, I was teaching a medical program, and I had started seeing how politics play into that, and there's just a lot, like a lot of good old boy stuff swept under the rug, such as I had a stalker, I had been sexually harassed, and there were, all of those different things. And just with healthcare, at that point, I'd always had it I always loved naturopathy and incorporated that into my program to begin with. But I saw the writing on the wall with all the COVID shit. I'd been in the game for far too long. I already knew. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to bow out. I knew I was already going to, I already felt like that was going to be my last year teaching. So like while I was at work, I was like, there's big energy today. I need to be doing my real work. This isn't my real work anymore. So when I say I'm plugged from the matrix, is like, I mean, I still use the internet. I still have electricity. I'm not off the grid, clearly. I hope to be one day. That would be really cool. But as far as the matrix of, I'm not feeding into a system I don't believe in. I couldn't work in healthcare another single day and spew the
Mm.
lies that they were doing. I literally I taught pathogen based precautions and used the slides from the CDC. And I was like, you want me to stand up here and teach that the next year and I'm going to be literally contradicting myself the entire time because I knew it was full. I knew it was bullshit. I knew what they were saying and how to do it was total lies, and that I wasn't going to feed it anymore. So I had to put my heart where I knew I could really help. And
What was the
naturopathy,
big moment? Like, where was there a big moment in your healthcare journey where it was like, this shit is bullshit?
many. So I started out as a CNA when I was 19, I think. Um, yeah, 19. I got my CNA, and then, or maybe I was 19 or 20. It was on my birthday. And so I worked as a CNA, then I got my med aid and I did that. And then I went to LPN school. Then I went to RN school. And then I worked, I worked from being the little grunt worker, like in nursing homes, whatever, all that. Then I did home health, which is basically med surg in people's houses. It's like you're in the hospital, but you're at home. So I did that, and then I graduated from that to this corporate marketing position for healthcare. So I was going into all these different facilities to get referrals for the home health. So I got to see the corporate side and where the money, and it was all about the money. And I
Mhm.
actually quit that job because they made me do something that I didn't. I said I'm not going to do that, and they made me break a promise to um, a client that I had taken. I was really hard to build a relationship with, and I was like, I can't do it, and they made me do it, and I quit. I quit right after that, and I moved on to director of nursing for a facility. So I had that, and then basically this teaching job was literally put in my lap. So I went through this hierarchy of grunt worker to corporate marketing and all of the stuff that goes into that. And then I went on to managing like 30 plus employees and 100 residents. And then I went on to the education system. And so each one of those things prepared me for stuff. And the corruption that I saw each turn of the way, I left the director of nursing job because the administrator had given me direction how to handle the situation with a resident and their family. I followed through. The family was pissed. The administrator threw me under the bus and told them it was all me and all my idea. So I left from there. And so, and like I mentioned, the corruption at the school as how politics and lobbying and all of that plays into all of it too. So there's corruption through the whole thing. And it quit being about doing what was right and wanting to help people. And it was how much money can we make? And I couldn't be a part of that. And it's like, it wasn't about healing. They want to keep you sick because they can't be rich if you're healed. So that's when I got into deeper naturopathy, and I created my skincare and hygiene products, and started my Reiki certification track that year in 2019. And I had already started my YouTube channel and my practice and all of that. So when COVID hit, and I was like, oh yeah, and I found out we were going back for the rest of the year. I was like, oh yeah, this is how I do it. I get to be paid through August, and that helps me build up all of these things and do all this stuff. So that's how I went from healthcare to this, and I still am a multi-state licensed RN.
Oh, okay. That's great. So you could go back into the matrix if you needed to.
Yes, I tried to actually. I tried to back last fall because let me just say, don't do what I did and quit your cush ass job and go head first into your spiritually based business
Yeah,
because
too late. Already did that, and it was really hard.
yes, so I'm just now coming out. So it's been 3 years of that. I mean, I've had my utility shut off several times. I almost
Oh my
lost my
God,
home.
girl.
Oh yeah, I almost lost my home. Like this is how I support myself. I mean, I do other things too, but like my business, how I support myself. But last fall, I was like, I've got to, I've got to start, you know, I've got to make more money. I can't do this anymore. That I've got to support myself. I've got to be able to pay my bills. So I applied for all these nursing positions, got one interview, and didn't get the job. That's never happened in the world of healthcare, especially when you're an RN with a resume like mine.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when I knew, okay, I'm not supposed to. And the one program or the one job that I did get the interview for was for a women's outreach program and it was a community-based, educational-based program and networking thing. So it wasn't going to be traditional healthcare. It was something that I could actually, really meant something to my heart. So, and that didn't go through. And so then that's when I was like, okay, I just got to surrender that this was, all it did was teach me to surrender the money, because I was so used to, like just have, I'm safe and secure because I have this much money in my bank account. That's not true. You're not safe and secure. I had to learn to surrender and to be safe and secure without that. And so it's opening up and it's coming through and I've made it, but I don't suggest anybody else do that because I wanted to quit a 5 bajillion, 100,000 times.
Plug your stuff. What's all the stuff we need to look at?
Okay, well, thank you. So I make skincare and hygiene products. So I make a face cream, an anti-aging face cream. That's a base of the body butter that I create, which they both have shea butter, mango butter, cocoa butter, not olive oil, but I say that. Almond oil, jojoba, and oh my gosh, my brain just went blank. I said almond, jojoba, rose hips, and I put a little bit of arrowroot in it to help it make it be fluffy. But the face cream is all of that with more rose hips, monoatomic gold, and frankincense. And I stand by myself. I also make a face mask that it has turmeric and coffee in it, so it's exfoliating, but it also will help reduce discoloration, and it's got diatomaceous. It's really, really good. I seriously stand behind all my stuff. I wouldn't put it out there because I was making all this stuff for myself for years before I decided to put it out there. But I also make deodorant. It really works. I promise you. My ex-boyfriend still uses that deodorant. Let me just tell you. It works. I make toothpaste. It works. All my stuff works. And then I do bath salts, and I grow smudge and I hand wrap smudge. My website is currently not up right now, but my Etsy shop and all the other stuff in my link tree, you can get access to that. So those are the products. I offer energy healing sessions, Reiki, Reiki classes. I'm a Karuna Reiki master, which is what you would say is like a 2nd degree Reiki master, because Karuna Reiki is, you have to be a Reiki master in order to take that, and you get it's like a whole nother level of tools that you get to use. So I teach all levels of Reiki, and it's compatible with any Reiki that you've taken, because there's different people. I do mine through the International Center for Reiki Training. I teach I teach classes besides Reiki, how to remove the negative entities, how to put up a crystal grid. What else? Oh, energetic cords of attachment, like how to properly remove them, because cutting isn't the most effective way. And then I offer tarot readings, which is my absolute favorite, which is why I rebranded my stuff, because while I enjoy all of those things, like teaching is my passion, helping people is my passion, I just think tarot is super fun. It's just fun, and it's different every single time, And so those are all the services,
all the knowledge you have. You have so much knowledge. It's like it just has the symbols to be able to speak to whatever is coming up from the subconscious. I love your channel. I'm like, how did I not get on this sooner? It's so good.
Well, I'm glad that you think it's funny, because sometimes I'm like, do I cuss too much on there? Am I the only one who thinks that I'm funny?
Oh, I cuss a
lot. So
lot.
I appreciate your feedback.
Yes, okay, I'm very raw. But yes, I really thank you for this time, Amanda. I think I'm sorry, I spelled your name wrong. I said Sykes. It looks like
it's Skyles.
Skyles.
Yeah, Skyles. Yeah. Yes, like a lot of people, it's Styles, Skyles, or Styles and Sykes is what people, and they often call me Amber Sykes. That's me.
Yeah, but
Amber Sykes. Yeah.
That name really speaks to your celestial knowledge, and it's a really cool name.
Yeah, Amanda Skyles, the Sky people. I have my dad's name is Dad Styles Walker. like Skywalker in my phone.
Oh, I love that. Well,
Thank you
thank
so much
you.
for having me on today. And it was so great to
Absolutely.
like get to chat with you and just have
Yeah.
this space for everybody.
Oh, absolutely. This was great. This was so informative. Like I see things in such a different way now when I look at that.
Oh, yay.
Hopefully most people do. Maybe today was supposed to be that rude awakening, maybe for some of us that were a bit in Delulu land. You know, I can get like that. I get like that sometimes.
Oh
But
no, me too. 100% me too. But there's nothing wrong with that because that energy serves a purpose. It all serves a purpose. You know what I mean?
sure.
So yeah, I really do hope this help people, help people recenter, balance, and just have a wider knowledge base about how all this stuff works than they did before they tuned in.
We all need to be our own sovereign healers. You know, what you're doing is
Yes.
great for the collective to remind them of that, to
Oh, thank
remind
you. I
us.
appreciate it so much.
Thank
I
you,
do.
sis. I'm going to press stop on the live now.
Okay.